listen to what I'm saying. You don't agree, I'm going to fucking burn the whole world down.
You know, everybody needs the right to express themselves, or else they'll go fucking mad. Honouring our loyal fan base as well and making a very Superheist record. And that's my favourite part of producing, is creating these huge symphonic pieces.
Hey Superheist fans, my name is Shane Blade and I'm here with the one and only DW Norton of Superheist to talk about the new album MMXX. Hello DW, how do you do, my friend?
Hello Mr. Blade, I'm well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me about the album.
I've listened to it 3 or 4 times in the small amount of time that I've had to listen to it, and I'm absolutely loving it. It feels like a complete, full album. MMXX, how'd that come about?
MMXX is Roman numerals for 2020. I think we saw a really big shift in the world in 2020. We had a pandemic kick in and the varying reactions that people had to that. And I guess some people started out pretty worried, and then a lot of people turned out very skeptical. And I seem to notice it was almost like a turning point for the world in the way that people express themselves and the way that they view their neighbor who may not agree with exactly what they're thinking, so to speak. And it's become apparent that healthy debate is really not wanted in this day and age. And I seem to notice that from about 2020. Maybe that was only me. Maybe that's always been happening, but that's when I really started to notice that, you know, in my perspective, things are not always as they seem. From 2020 onwards, I noticed I needed to find my own understanding and my own way of dealing with things and the way of communicating with people, because you want to give your opinion, obviously. That's what discussion is, right? Discussion is the sharing of opinion, I guess. I found myself at odds with people because I decided I wanted to share my opinion, and I might have been doing it on social media or whatever. And, you know, you can't do that. Like it just causes too much grief. So I think, you know, this album for me was my way of communicating without causing unwanted debate, you know, speak my mind through the music, and I can get my side of the story, or my way of understanding the world and what I see going down and not going down, and what might go down soon or whatever. I don't have someone tell me to shut up or, you know, I'm wrong, or it's not about being wrong or right. It's just about
having you say.
Everybody has their own understanding of the way things are, and we should be able to share those understandings without it being an argument or the hurling of abuse. And I think what better vehicle than music to convey the way that you feel?
Completely 100% agree with that. With that being said, you kind of maybe answered this next question, but I was going to ask, is there a theme or a concept for the entire album?
It's interesting because we have a lot of songs and not all of them made that album. Originally, I was trying to fit the best songs into the album, you know, because I don't really want to put out a 15-song album. It's a bit too many songs. I think 12 is about the right amount. And, you know, we have like 24 songs pretty much finished, mixed, ready to be mastered. 12 of them are going to be on MMXX. And how did I decide which songs went on there? Well, they almost started to pick themselves, because whether that both sonically, musically, the lyrical message and the I guess the overall sound of these songs, they all just seem to work together. And anytime I tried to bring in, there might be a better song that's on, because we're going to do a part 2. As a result of this, we're going to do a part 2, right? The songs that made part 1 almost picked themselves for the team, so to speak, because they were most in sync with each other. All the different aspects of what you want from a song and how we put it together, they seem to work together. So they're not necessarily all the best songs from our stable of 24. There's some songs I really wanted to be on there. I even removed my favorite song from MMXX, you know, because that'll be on part 2. It's just cohesive selection was really important for this record. That's how we picked the songs.
And that's exciting to look forward to another album. If people can think of this as part 1, that's pretty cool, and get a sequel.
It is, yeah. I had some news the other day about the manufacturing process of our vinyl copies, I guess due to the logistical issues of the world right now. The lead time on these LPs is astronomical. You know, it's 5 months. What we're going to do is the LP edition will be a double album. So when part 2 comes out in 6 months' time, it'll have MMX part 1 and part 2 in the vinyl 2-sleeve.
Great idea.
But unfortunately, you won't get the vinyl on July 1.
Right.
I think they blame Vladimir Putin.
Well, he's copping the blame for everything at the moment, so why not throw that on him? The cover art for the album, could you want to explain how that came about and who did that?
My very good friend, Richard De Silva, played guitar and Walk the Earth with me. He fills in on guitar with Superheist whenever Kier's not able to travel overseas. He's been doing our artwork since Identical Remote Control Reactions. In fact, pretty sure every release I've done since then, whether it's Superheist or not, he's been responsible for the artwork. I guess he really understands what I want in the art, and his first idea is the one that ends up on the record, and then he just builds upon it, and it's always great. The gas mask, I guess, is symbolic of a couple of things. It's when you put a gas mask on, you feel very cut off from the world, right? You're in there, you can breathe. When you're getting about like this, and it's almost like things are going on around you, and you're almost completely disassociated from it. And I feel that's something else that's happened since 2020. Is that's how a lot of people feel. Mm-hmm. You know, that they've, especially during lockdowns and whatnot. You know, people have been pushed right back into themselves, and so that was one part of the gas mask meaning, and then. I guess it's just a bit of a play on the world's heading for the zombie apocalypse. It just tied in nicely with the sentiment of the record.
With this album, what would you say is different about this album to past albums, if there is anything?
Well, this album is the first time that we haven't used the lead singer. You know, Superheist started with a lead singer by the name of Berger. We did Apocalypse, Chrome Matrix, 8 Miles High, and The Prize Recruit with Berger. Sort of culminated in our heyday around sort of 2000, 2001. The band was doing really well. Relationship broke down, whatever. We ended up with a new singer, did a record or two, relationship breakdown. Third singer, blah blah blah. Same thing. I don't know why that is. I mean, maybe I'm too demanding. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's them. We didn't want to go and do that again. You know, yep. We're older now. We're only really making this record for ourselves and our fans. We're not expecting we're going to break new ground and be this big successful band. It's not about that. It's about the four of us, which is myself, Simon Durant on bass, who also shares vocals with me, Kia Gocha on guitar, and John Sankey on drums. The four of us, we get along really well. You know, there's never a drama. It's always a great time hanging out face to face. It's just a laugh a minute. It's really enjoyable. Musically, we're really on the same page as each other. It's like if they want to have a go at writing some Superheist riffs, when I get it back from them, it's a Superheist riff. It's not somebody trying to do a Superheist riff or getting it wrong or not quite hitting the mark. I'm like, I wish I wrote that. You know, what a sick riff. Yeah, you know, so there's no awkwardness about going back to someone to say, sorry, you really love your song. You know, we might use that on the next album, not this one. Because Superheist has its own, well, I think it's got its own sound. Like it's,
for sure.
You know, whether we're exploring a more rock pop element in some records like Ghost of Social Dead, or it's, you know, really heavy like Chrome Matrix, you know, back in the early days, or what we're doing now, you can still tell it's Superheist. We've had that synergy as writers, and I didn't know we had it, you know, with these guys, because I guess the other records were written a bit more, you know, with me, a little bit of contribution from them, or the odd riff here or there. The music gets finished, then it goes over to the singer, and he kind of does his thing a little bit, I get disjointed from the core group.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's the core group doing all of it. And we taught ourselves how to sing and make it sound Superheist, and not for a second thinking that I can keep up with the talents of Zeke or Joey or Berger vocally. But I think I can deliver. I've taught myself to be able to deliver Superheist the way that it demands. I hope that I'm adding something to what they brought. I mean, they all brought wonderful music to Superheist, all those guys, and and their voices were great. I don't see myself as all of a sudden a lead singer. It's like the guitar. I don't really see myself as a guitarist. I feel like I'm a songwriter and a performer. I don't care if I have to play the keyboards, as long as I'm contributing to the music and I'm expressing what I need in the music, whether it's singing, guitar, keyboards, drums, the kazoo, whatever. It's about adding what the band requires and what the sound of Superheist requires. We don't want to get into the situation where we're going to go and find a fourth singer. We're just going to do this ourselves. We will put out more music this way for a lot longer.
For what it's worth, whatever my opinion is worth, after listening to the album, I think it's top of the line. I think the singing is perfect. Like, it suits the album. I think it's some of the best vocals that have been done within Superheist. I think maybe that could even be because possibly as the songwriter yourself, when you're going to do the singing, you are bringing what you hear to begin with. I think we've spoken before about, you might have done some songs in the past and a singer might come in and, like you said, they're great and they bring their own influence, but sometimes it might not be exactly how you'd kind of pictured it to begin with. So that's an element that may be a good thing.
I've tried to articulate this in the past. It's almost as if when I write the music, it's got a certain emotion to it, that's relevant to me. No one else is to be able to understand that and contribute exactly how I would think that song needs to go emotionally, spiritually, sonically, all the bits that make great music. When now that I'm able to add my own vocals, is I'm already understanding. There's not that disconnect. I guess if you're seeing a little bit more coherence in the songs, I think that's why. Because a singer who's adding their vocal to the music, who didn't write the music to begin with, is starting almost on a clean slate. It's almost like the original intent and emotion gets rubbed out and new ones start. And that's why I always noticed that. And that's why, it's very rare that a working title from a song would end up the finished title.
Now that, we've sort of talked about the sort of some of the concept and sort of the premise of getting it done, I want to sort of delve into some of the actual songs and just speak about them. First off, maybe we could talk about Medicated. The first song that you've released with a lyric video. In the lyric video, there's a lot of stuff that has been sort of trending topics throughout the last couple of years and just sort of the angst that's sort of been happening with the world.
It's one of the earlier songs written. It's a great introduction to the rest of the record. Sometimes you pick the best song as the single. I'm not certain this is the best song on the album, but I think it was the best representation of what's to come. So that's why we chose it as the first song. We did a lyric video because logistically for us, like Simon, he lives in Adelaide. John Sankey was living in the Northern Rivers. I'm in the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, and Kira's in California in the United States. We just couldn't get together to make a video. So we called upon one of my good friends, Shane Swanee Thompson, who's also one of our lighting guys that we use live. Great guy, and him and I worked on that video for a long time. He really understood where the song was coming from, and I saw somebody say the other day, I'm not into the political commentary. Well, it's actually not political commentary. To me, it's social commentary. We're seeing these extraordinary amount of riots around the world, whether it's the freedom rallies, whether it's BLM marches. They get crazy, they get huge and they get crazy. And I think to myself, well, why is that? And it's because people get like that when they're not being heard, when they're not being listened to or nurtured by those who have the ability to do so. A lot of people look to the government for those answers. To me, the government, they're on their own fucking train. They're on their own agenda, and it doesn't necessarily have our best interests at heart. And I'm not saying this from a political stance. I actually didn't know, Shane, what right politics or left politics was until 2020. I've always voted, but I would more sort of vote for the bloke that seemed to know what he was talking about the most. I didn't know that there was an actual long traditional party policy line that these governments and political parties have. I didn't know. So I've learnt that in the last couple of years and taken a keen interest in it. Medicated is not a political song, it's a social song. The way that I see things is I kind of know myself what I think people in the world needs. I don't know, I'm not saying that I have the solutions for it all, but one of them is obviously be bloody tolerant. Somebody's pissed off about something, there's a reason. You know, if they're feeling hard done by, there's a reason. You know, if they're feeling alienated, there's a reason. And people just need to listen, acknowledge, and act with respect. Lately, it's like, listen to what I'm saying, and you don't agree, I'm going to fucking burn the whole world down. You know, and it's like, whoa, you know, what about have some discussion? You know, I find myself listening to discussion more than I do music now. I guess that's the beauty of podcasts and stuff like that. Both sides of the story need to be represented. Just because I believe one thing doesn't mean I'm 100% right. And even some people might have a lot of it wrong, but they might have some of it right. And you want to know that. You don't want that shut down so you can't hear what they're saying. Freedom of speech thing is apparently that's a right-wing concept now. If you're a person, you know, you should be allowed to have your own opinion.
One of my favorite quotes is, I may not agree with what you're saying, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. I don't know who said that, but I just 100%. Think it's an amazing sort of point in freedom of speech.
Yeah, I can understand why some levels of society want to limit hate speech. I can understand that to a certain degree. I don't want to hear hate speech. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to fucking tune into it. If I hear someone comes on the TV spewing racist or homophobic shit, I'm just going to turn them off. But just in the same sentence, if someone's speaking something valid, there might only be a couple of things that they say that it's valid. And it could be the other way as well, you know, the people that are fighting for trans rights and whatnot, you know. Some of it might be like, what? I don't understand. Like, so men can compete against women? I don't understand. But I want to try and understand. First and foremost, I don't want anyone to have a shit life because they're alienated and they're treated unfairly. There's always a solution, and it starts with listening. You shut down free speech, you no longer get to hear what people have to say. Medicated being a metaphor for numbing yourself to things and hiding away from it and burying yourself in whatever your drug is, whether it's social media, whether it's heroin or whether it's alcohol or whether it's for, you know, antidepressants or whatever it is. You're numbing yourself to the troubles the world has that we actually need to be awake to and work towards fixing. We want the passionate people helping the world and get better, but we also don't want them, because they have their agenda, to ruin the normal life that a lot of other people have doing what they do. There's got to be the balance.
Going on to another song, which I believe is the next single coming out from the album, and you guys are actually doing a film clip for this one, is called Destination Unknown. I don't know why, but it reminds me of some of the earlier Heist stuff, and it feels like a single.
It was hard to pick a single because I love all the songs. You know, I think this is the first album where I've been as happy with every song as the next. Usually there's one I'm like, I don't know, should it be on there, shouldn't it be on. This one's like every one I'm completely happy with. Even if someone said, oh, you've got a chance to quickly do a couple of remixes or a couple of changes of something, I'll be like, nah, it's done. Play it to friends and whatever and say, what song would you think? And everyone would say something different. Nobody went, oh, it's definitely this one. This is the one. And it's always different. Ranged across, no joke, 6-7 songs. So, I mean, even the songs that you said you really loved, again, I could have picked any one of them as a single. I like that song because of the way it kicks in at the start. And it's heavy and it's ferocious and it's got some big grooves and it's got a huge big chorus, and there's really not much hip hop element in this song. I guess it's just metal. It also showcased Simon and myself with that double vocal attack really well. So.
I want to talk about one of my personal favorites, which is A History of Violence. There's a history of violence, killers with their sirens, feel it on the inside, it's harmless to get. As you were saying before, everyone else was talking about what they think their single would be. I think that, History of Violence for me feels like a single.
The way I write a song is I'll start with my riff, right? And I'll write that riff, I'll get it to where I want it. I won't even worry about the next part of the song. I'll open Pro Tools, I'll record that riff, set up the click, record the riff, double track it, add the bass, put in some demo drums, have it sounding massive, and then I'll start worrying about where that's going to go. I have no idea at that point. You know, it's just, I've got that one riff, I recorded it, sounding fat, grooves happening, that's the right tempo. Eventually I'll go, okay, that can go into this part, and then I'll start writing that part, and then it'll go into the chorus chords, and then, you know, I'll put a song, the basic bed of a song together in, you know, pretty quick, an hour. With this song, it's like, this riff is rad. I just want to hear that riff over and over again. Why don't I see if I can make a whole song out of one riff? And it started out as a bit of a project of just making it one riff, start to finish. And it is, like, even all those overdub, what is the chorus, it sounds like it changes and there's melodies and all this going on in it. It's that riff. Underneath, if you listen to it, it's still that riff. It ended up the riff all the way through, and then even when it gets to the end of the song, it kind of rings out at the end of the chorus, and then I want to hear that riff again. So we put another 4 bars of that riff in, and it just doesn't leave you. And it's a big stomping song, you know, like it's not your typical Superheist bounce song. Yeah, it's stomping, you know, stomping.
When you say it's the one riff, so I feel like you can really, like you said, you get into a trance and feel like it's, you know,
it's a little bit hypnotic, right? It's got almost like the big riff, and then it comes down to, you know, more chilled out and bringing in a bit of hip hop into this song. You know, it's a bit hip hoppy, trying to do my best hip hop versions, and then it, you know, kicks into the big stomp again. You know, it's all about the big stomp. Oh, it's a surprise one to me because it probably sounds different to anything we've done before.
And super catchy, like that history of violence, like this, just those lyrics in itself too is really catchy. You know, I'm constantly singing that.
And lyrically, this song, you know, really points to my frustrations. I guess that's a cool thing about being in a band, because you can write a record and get your point across and put it out there, and people are going to buy it and listen to it. So I guess that's a larger friend group again. I'm certainly not preaching anything on this record, but I'm certainly voicing my opinion. So I've written a lot of lyrics on this record as well. Yep. He's voicing his opinion too. You know, everybody needs the right to express themselves, or else they'll go fucking mad.
Moving on to the next song, Mayhem. A mixture of everything. It's got the metal, it's got hip hop, and even it has a breakdown section where it goes into like a really fast solo and some piano in there.
I've got all these tools at my disposal in the studio. I've got this killer keyboard, this I've been using it for years, this Roland 88, tinker away on it. I wouldn't call myself a pianist or a keyboard player, but I can make a melody, and like most instruments, I can pick up most instruments and make some sort of melody. Doesn't mean I'm accomplished at any of them, including guitar. Mayhem was the first song that we'd written for this album, and it was one that I was very conscious about making super heisty. I thought, whatever we're going to do, whatever's going to come out first has to be extremely relevant to super heist, because, you know, it was very daunting. For myself, Simon and I decided that we were going to do the vocals ourselves without, you know, looking for another vocalist. And, you know, we had to basically teach ourselves how to do it. We had the music for the song, and there's a vocal over it, send it to Simon, and I go, you know, is this shit? And you go, yeah, that's shit. Do I sound stupid? Yeah, it sounds stupid. Okay, cool. So that's not the direction. And I really wanted to find a voice, my own voice, that really worked with Superheist. And it was Simon that said, just do your own voice, you know, don't try and taint it up too much. And so that's what I did. And that, I guess the rappy versions in this song, they are a little bit more spoken word, rhythmic spoken word, because I'm not the yo guy, you know. I'm not from the hood, you know. I'm from, well, right now from Black Mountain, you know, in the country. I wanted to have those super heisty, hip hoppy moments on this record. And they've got them. They're there, right? You know, we've got the drum loops, we've got the doo bass lines, and, you know, it's definitely the hip hop influence in there. But I'm no rapper. I don't confess to be one. So it's more of a rhythmic, melodyless vocal than it is a rap, I think. But we found the sound that set the tone for the rest of the record, I think, with this song.
You were mentioned before some of the guitars that you were using and the amp you were using.
We graduated to 8-string guitars. We used 8-string guitars for the most of Sidewinder as well, but Sidewinder is a bit more like 1-string bounce riff sort of stuff. There's a lot more of a metal approach to this record, like it's chunkier. The EDH amp is featured on this record as well. The 5150, I've just had the little 50-watt one in here. You see that?
Yep.
Right, so that's the amp that I used on this record for the most part. Because we're recording completely isolated from each other, like there is no getting together and jam. You know, we couldn't get together at all. You know, you weren't allowed to travel around the world. Kiers over in America. So for the entire recording and producing and writing of this record, we didn't see each other at all. Mm-hmm. It's all done sending ideas over the internet, producing each other via text message and Facebook Messenger. Occasionally we'd even get on the phone call and have a real voice chat. That's how we made this record. Never in the same room at the same time at all. It's all done over the internet and ourselves in our own little studios wherever we are, right? A lot of the parts that come back to you, because we don't want different mics in different rooms on different amps and it all sounds too weird, we would just send raw, dry line guitar parts to each other and that sort of stuff. And from there, when I'm mixing, I can use all the same amp plugins and all that sort of stuff. Because some of the songs Simon's played guitar on. He's written the guitar, so he's played the guitar as well. Songs like The Crow, for example.
I never listened to the theory of the transcender. With the words to bond is the blood letter.
You know, so he wrote all the guitar parts. So he's played all the guitar parts. So he played the bass on that song as well. Or, you know, I might play all the guitar and all the bass. Or, you know, it might be Kier or whatever. Kier will generally do a lot of those amazing guitar overdubs and, you know, crazy little noises here and there, little new metal squeaks, you know, sort of stuff.
Okay, yep.
He's got the knack for all that. So we would send all our parts around. So not every song has the real mic'd amp. So sometimes it's plugins, but they're so advanced. I use the Fortin plugin and I use the Revolver 4, which is the PV amps and stuff. We've always used PV amps and now we use EDH, which is a throwback to the 5150 PV anyway. It sounds so huge because there's 4 tracks of rhythm guitars, 2, you know, left and right of the Fortin sound and left and right of the EDH sound or whatever, you know. We build them. They're not all the same. They might sound the same, but they're all different. We might use an orange amp or something like that for some cleaner stuff, or a Fender Twin or something like that, and we just got them all on the plugins. Brilliant. Writing with the keyboard and, you know, all the different instruments that we have at our disposal that's my favorite part of writing, is creating those almost symphonic sections, choruses or whatever, adding the layers. You know, you got your main chords, and then I might tune the guitar a little differently to get a bit of jangle on the chord, or we'll add some overdubs and we'll layer it in there. And in the chorus parts, there might be 24 tracks of different instruments, you know, keyboards, strings, pianos, drum loops, you know, samples, whatever it is. And that's my favorite part of producing, is creating these huge symphonic pieces, and, you know, the harmonic overtones of everything, and the way that it all colors together and works together, and then the vocals and the vocal harmonies. It's really quite in depth. Like, there's a lot to it, you know. Like,
I love that concept, and I can definitely feel that throughout the album is those orchestral parts, that big sound. Because when I was listening to the album, I was like, how the fuck did he get these sounds in this, you know? One last song I want to talk about is the last song on the album, called Oblivion. It really took me by surprise, because it's just got this super heavy riff that sort of comes in it, and then the chorus is really dreamy. It sort of breaks down at the end, and you've got this really, like, lots of motivational speaking, and it sort of feels really inspirational.
I've sampled David Icke, and he's I guess a polarizing figure out there, and I don't necessarily believe or agree with everything he says, but this particular sample really sums up my feelings on this record. You know, he's talking about the importance of being yourself, not what you perceive others think you should be. You know, so the honesty of yourself and being honest to yourself and projecting the most honest version of yourself to others is your best self. Once I found that sample and put it in there, I thought this has definitely got to be the last song on the album. This is such a great sign off for the record. You know, it's heavy. The chorus, as you said, is super dreamy. And then it almost like not fades out, but the parts of the songs kind of fall off as it heads towards the end of the song, and it finishes with the really poignant phrase from David Icke, and it just completely signs off the record perfectly. So it was always going to be the last song. And also, if you noticed, when you press play at the start of the first song, Last Chance to Leave, it has these finger clicks just before it kicks in. You may not have heard it, but it's almost like when you're listening to that last song after you first played through the record and David Icke signs off, and you're kind of going, wow. And then these finger clicks kick in and boom, it's back into the first song again. It's like,
Right.
Yeah, here we go.
Being the last song, I think it really does wrap up the album really well. It really kind of makes everything sort of come together. Once the album's finished, it leaves you with that kind of inspirational, motivational kind of feeling, and that you can be something, that you do something. And I think music is meant to do that. Music is meant to make you feel. And I think that this album really makes you feel it. Past couple of years and the segregation and the riots and whatever, and people feeling like sort of lost. And I think that this sums up that kind of feeling. It
was important for us to make an honest record as well. So we're almost following the David Icke ethos there and making an honest record that the best Superheist can be at the moment. That's what we've delivered. You know, gone are the days where we're worried about, you know, how many records we sell, how many YouTube likes we have, or, you know, how many people have watched the video or bought the video or bought the songs. That's not what it's about anymore. It's about making a great record for ourselves, being super happy about that, and then the record being, you know, honoring our loyal fan base as well, and making a very Superheist record. You know, sometimes they'll contact me directly on Facebook and say, you know, I just wanted to say, you know, your music means so much to me. And often I'll go, oh, hey, you want to hear the new record before it's out? And they'll be like, you know, blow their mind. It's their feedback that's what matters most to me. When they tell me how they feel about our music and how it affects them, and see that they absolutely get it, that's success. You know, that's the payoff. That's what matters. You know, really making the record and then listening to how it's affected people or how much they've enjoyed it, and then eventually taking that to the live arena. That's what being in a band is about. That's what creating music is about. Just want to make good music that people enjoy, gravitate towards. Maybe they might start thinking for themselves in a positive way. Something like that. That's where success is for Superheist now. That's an awesome way to wrap this up. Thank you for speaking with me today, DW. It's been an absolute pleasure. I absolutely love the album, and I know that people are going to love the album. Make sure you go and pre-order the album. It is in the link in the description here on Superheist TV, and subscribe to the Superheist TV channel while you're at it. It's been an absolute pleasure. Rock on, man. Thank you, Shane Blade. Cheers, brother. You will only express your true, unique self if you refuse to let anyone impact and suppress that expression of your true, unique self. Most people are not living their lives. They're not living who they are. They're living what they think others think they should be. Therefore, they're living a lie. They're living someone else's version of them. And as I was saying, like before, when we recorded this before, I feel like we've already had this discussion before. Deja vu.